So a couple of objectives of this session. One is I'll just touch upon why a career in sales is good. I'll tell you how to build a personal brand and credibility, which is the building block for building those relationships with customers, and then selling based on relationships. Okay. So if you look at the function is in an organization, right? You have sales, marketing, operations, HR, human resources, IT, corporate strategy. So out of these, which one do you think is the most important? And why? Strategy and sales. And why is it important, Karthikeyan? Operational, okay. Sales, okay. Drivers of revenue, okay. Sales, yeah. So if you look at all of these functions, apart from sales, which brings in money to the organization, everything else spends money, right? So in marketing, you spend money. In operations, you spend money. In finance, you spend money. In HR, you spend money. IT, corporate strategy, they're all functions where you spend money. Sales is the only function where you generate revenue, correct? So whenever there's a slowdown, like today we are seeing news of so many layoffs and all, typically salespeople are affected the last, and in my opinion, marketing happens first because they can do with a lesser number of marketing folks. But in my opinion, salespeople are affected the last, especially if they're top good performers. Right now, if you look at the CEOs, which if you look at CEOs in the Bombay 500, Bombay Stock BSE 500 or NSE 1000 or in any of the Nasdaq listed companies and all of that, which function do you think provides the maximum number of CEOs? Right. So I'm not saying this. This is Heidrick and Struggles, an international company, in their Route to the Top study 2017, says that on the FTSE, almost 1 in 5 CEOs came from a sales and marketing background. Right. I think the next would be operations and finance. So these are three big functions from where CEOs come. But if you look at it, look at the trillion-dollar companies, right? So Steve Jobs was a sales and marketing guy. Or if you look at Satya Nadella, he's again a sales and marketing guy. Or Pichai would have been a techie in his earlier career, but he came in from the sales and marketing route. So you have more CEOs coming in from sales and marketing compared to other functions, because the biggest thing is in sales, you deal with people, and that's a skill that we need while we run an organization. Okay. So what we'll cover today is building a relationship with potential customers. Yeah. So if you have a relationship, it doesn't matter about pricing, and pricing and product features matter, but the more important aspect would be the product features. So and especially if you're selling a high cost item, so if you're selling a refrigerator or a car, you won't just walk in and you might walk in and buy a car, but you'll also look at 4 or 5 dealers. You will see how is the salesperson treating you. You look at what is the after service, what is the brand, and then you buy, right? So you look at how you're treated by that person in the. You don't just go. It's not like a supermarket where you go and buy Maggie and oats and all of that. You just put it into your basket and come out, right? It's not like that. So if you're buying a high price product, similarly with services, if you're saying doing a logo design, you can just go to Fiverr and get it done for a few thousand rupees. But if you're getting a website built, you'll talk to 3-4 vendors and then see where you get a sync with the person, and then you go with that vendor, right? And then you also look at how personalized it is. So there are a lot of product companies which say, go to my website and you can do everything. So for a lot of low ticket items, yes, that works. But if it's an SAP, you can't just click 2 buttons and install the whole software, right? You need an implementation, somebody to come study your processes, and all of that, and then suggest what modules and where and what locations and what, how to, streamlining processes, all of that. So and for that you need a vendor that you can trust, or you need a partner that you can trust, especially on the after sales. And if you look at it, a lot of us, especially in my line of business, I am into services. Referrals play a large part, right? So whenever I make a proposal, I tell the client that we've done this similar work in these 2-3 companies. This is a company from your industry. If you want, you can have a chat with the CFO or the CTO, and we're happy to arrange that meeting, right? So many times your customers, if they have a good relationship and a good experience, they also help you with referrals. Okay, so now let's go to questions. So I see Hitesh has his hand up for a long time. So Hitesh, would you like to ask a question? Or anybody else, if you have a question, you can just raise your hand and we'll call on you.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm Lakshit, and my question is
Yeah.
that you can ask for referrals when you already have like past clients,
Yeah.
but how to get your first customer and build trust for him? Like you are entering into market, you have built your product, and now how to get your first customer and make him trust with you or your product? That's what my question is.
Sure, that's a good question. I'll cover that. Any other questions? So Lakshit, let me flip that to you. How do you think we can go about getting a first customer?
What I think is that what I think finding the customer who has a burning problem, right? So in case yeah,
ఏమన్నా మా ఎమ్మెల్యే అంతే పబ్లిక్
Mallikarjun, I think you need to go on mute. Yep. Yeah, go on, Lakshit.
so if you are building a product, I think you have a USP, right? So there is something unique. So what I think is that finding that customer who has a burning problem, like who is suffering a large for that solution, and like, through that you can get your first customer. I think so. Like I have heard that
but how do you identify your first customer? Okay, we let's park that. I will cover that. Rohan, you had a question. Rohan Patnaik.
Yeah. Hi, Rohit.
Yeah.
Rohit, earlier in business, particularly, not able to give it that much importance to the emotional part. But right now, as the relationship you are giving emphasis means right now in the business world and as sales also, giving much more importance to the relationship, which is equal to the emotional part, right? Why exactly that is happening nowadays? Not earlier it was happening.
I think it was always happening. Why do you say it was not happening earlier?
I mean, earlier I have heard of that, like emotional part is not given that much importance. Always profit or revenue that much. That was the utmost importance given by both the sides. But nowadays, emotional part, the relationship given more importance in the business.
Okay, so I will ask you: have you taken an insurance policy?
Yeah.
Right. And how did you go about buying the policy?
I mean, that was not my own interest. That was only a forceful interest from the salesperson in. So that's why I have taken. Otherwise, I don't have any intention to take that policy from my end.
But if you look at people from my generation, right, or people like between your and my generation, we start working and then our parents will say, "Beta, ye uncle hai, LIC ka agent hai, baat kar lena, LIC kara do," right? So that's again. So, and I've been an insurance agent in the past, right? I've sold insurance for 3 years, and insurance is one example where, like you said, it's a product that gives you money when you're dead, or it gives money to your family members when something happens to you. So it's a tough sell because you don't see the value, especially if you're single, you don't see the use of insurance. But most of the selling happens through friends and family. So when we go through our training program, the sales manager will ask us, okay, make a list of 100 people who you know, friends, family, neighbors, all of that. So these will be the initial set of people that you're going to talk to and talk about our products. Right. So that's one example of relationship-based selling. Coming to Lakshit's point. Okay, Rohan, anything else you want to ask?
Yeah, thanks, Rohit.
Yeah. I think Hitesh Grover had a question. Hitesh, you still have a question?
Yeah, hi Rohit.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, if we are switching from one product to another, the USP of a one product is different, and second product is different. But my client base is actually from the as per my first product. So how we are engaging my that customer link to that my new product.
I didn't understand. You're saying the customer is already using a product of a competitor, and you want to move them from the competitor to your product. Is that what you're saying?
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah, my question is that let's suppose previously I'm selling some other product having a USP different. Now, if I'm switching from one product to another,
Right.
the USP again is different. But my client base is actually as per my first. So how we are engaging that my client base into the second product?
You're saying if the client is using one product, can I sell them how do I sell them a competing product? Is that your question?
Yeah, boss.
Okay, great. So, so there are a couple of things. One is, especially if it's a high cost item, if the after sales is not up to the mark, or the salesperson will usually what happens is the sales happens by one person and the delivery happens through another person, right? In most industries, except in our industry, in consulting, we have to sell and we have to deliver the same engagement. So what happens is at times a salesperson may make some commitments and the person who's delivering may not be able to deliver on that, right? So then the client will say, but you promised, right? So for the client, both the salesperson and the delivery person are the same, are the same organization, right? Or one team. So there are cases like that where you're not satisfied with the product and then you say, okay, let me try out what are the other products in the market. But here in this case, the switching cost is low. So for example, if I've implemented SAP and I've spent like millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars, it's not easy to migrate from SAP to any other ERP, right? To an Oracle or Microsoft Dynamics or something, right? So there the switching costs. But then again, there you might be able to change the vendor who does the after sales.
Okay.
Right. So that is one. Switching cost. So what you need to look at the switching cost. If it is so, for example, why do all these come? So there are, if you look at the cloud companies, right? Microsoft, Google, and all of these, AWS, all of them have programs with startups where they're giving free credits. Why is that? Right, the same way. So a startup gets into that incubator or that program. They use, say, AWS credits. So tomorrow they can, and they build their whole product or platform around AWS. So tomorrow they cannot switch to a GCP or an Azure, right? Because they've already invested a lot of time and effort into that. Right. So that is another example of building a relationship and then leveraging on that over time.
But in that case, my budget is also constrained. That if you're switching from one product to another, my relation is well enough that the client is thinking about that switching from one to another product. But the budget is still constrained there. That is, we have to selling that product. So money is at the end of money is also matters.
Sure. Yeah. So typically clients will switch where the cost of switching is not too much. Right. So for example, I have an account with a bank for 25 years. So all my EMIs, everything is with that bank. Now I can't shift suddenly to another bank because I need to, there are 50 moving parts there. But if you're taking say an email server, so and one server doesn't work, you can easily switch to a different server because the configuration required is very less compared to an SAP or so on. If you look at the pirated software, so all of us in college use pirated software, right? Microsoft,
Yeah.
Office, all of that. Um, and I'm sure these software companies know that we are using pirated software, but they don't tell us not to do it, right? Or they don't shut us down because they know that tomorrow when we join a company, we are comfortable with that software, so we will continue using the software and we'll buy a license tomorrow. So if you're doing a startup and you're using unlicensed software, tomorrow you raise funds. When the investor comes for a due diligence, you will have to buy the licenses, right? So this is also one way of companies which are building a relationship with the client, with the customer, uh, through low cost methods. And these are all pull products, right? Office 365 and all. So these are examples where, um, but then yes, if somehow I work in a large company and I quit, and then I see that okay, my O365 is very expensive. I don't want to pay 5,000 a year. Then I might say, okay, let me go to Google Cloud. It's like um, it's much cheaper or something like that. So I will look at. So I think the main criteria would be the switching cost, and if the service is really bad. If the service is okay, then usually clients don't switch as much to other similar platforms. Do you have another point of view, Hitesh?
So I have a question here.
Yeah,
Can I?
Viraj. Yes.
Yeah. So is creating a pirated copy or something is a kind of marketing for a company?
It is kind of a marketing.
Okay.
I mean, see the pirate. I mean, we're going to a gray area, but it's what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, even though Microsoft may know that they're using a pirated version, they don't shut us down. I've not seen any of these large companies shutting down individuals because they're just letting you get comfortable with their software. So
Yeah.
tomorrow you won't go to a free version. There is a I don't know King software or uh,
King Office. Yeah.
King Office or even the
WPS Office. Yeah.
yeah WPS and even the Google Online. So, so if you're for example, when I joined my first company, first job, we used to use Lotus Notes, right? So the whole company used to be on Lotus Notes, and there were just 3 or 4 people in the whole company who had Office. I was one of them because I was in marketing, and all my clients had Office. So I told my boss that I need Office because I need to make documents which I send to the outside world, which are in Office in PowerPoint and Word and Excel. But the whole company, the rest of us, all of us operated on Lotus Notes. So I was one of those 4 or 5 people who had both Lotus Notes and Office installed on my system, right? But these are like boundary conditions. Typically, yeah, the cost of switching. So basically, so you get the customer used to your software. That's what AWS is doing, or Azure is doing, or GCP is doing with their incubation programs also. So once you have exhausted a $50,000 credit, or $10,000 credit, or $100,000 credit, you will continue on that platform.
Yeah. Got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. So I think let's move on. And if there are any questions, you can park them and we'll take it up at the end of the session. Okay. So, yeah. So I presume all of you are looking at careers in sales. One thing I always do is I do a bit of research on the person before the meeting. So, and LinkedIn is a great tool there. So you look at who are the common connects. you look at where did the person grow up, which school, which college, any past companies. And I always start my meeting with an icebreaker. Oh, you're from Lucknow. I had been to Lucknow. We had tunde kebab at so-and-so place. And then there's, yes, but this is a better place. Things like that. So it's always good to, do that small talk in the first, couple of minutes, 4-5 minutes, to build that rapport. You can't just go and start selling or start pitching a company, right? So I always, start with something which connects. Then again, some kind of, then you need to know, okay, how much time do I have? Is it like an hour? Is it like half an hour? Do I have time? So through the small talk, you will know how open the person is, how, to talk to you. So based on that, we start the rest of the discussions, right? Or and so on. The second aspect is we need to talk less and listen more, right? So we want, in the first meeting, we can't be selling anything to them. In the first meeting, we want to understand what are their pain points, right? So in my current job, I deal with e-com companies, unicorns, unicorns, and so on. And obviously, because of my background, I know of quite a few founders, but I won't be going to them all the time and saying, I have this product, I have this solution, I have that solution. I will meet them sometime over tea, over coffee, maybe over dinner, have during a meeting. I'll just say, take 5 minutes and say, what is top of your mind right now? Right. So those are things. So first make them comfortable. Get into a comfortable setting, and then make them talk, open-ended question. Don't say, do you have any cyber challenges? They'll say yes or no. No, you say, what are your top challenges around technology or around intrusion? Or so you need to word our questions in such a way that they kind of open up with us, right? So first make them comfortable, then make them open up, and then it's always important to make notes. So if you're in a formal meeting, always have a notepad with you and keep jotting down. If you meet them informally, then what a lot of people do is they create WhatsApp groups with themselves and keep putting notes there, meeting notes, or have a note-taking app and keep making notes there. But it's always important to capture these notes, because our brain remembers these things for like 5-10 minutes. After that, the retention becomes very less. So, and show interest. So whenever they're speaking, be generally interested in knowing what they are up to, right? And not an agenda. So don't listen to speak or react, but listen to understand and learn something new, learn what they're dealing with, right? So show genuine interest, because then they will also connect with you, saying that, okay, this person is genuinely interested in my business and helping me. Let me give them an appointment, right? Yeah. So again, establish your credibility, be authentic. So if you're meeting somebody new, so make them comfortable. Then talk about work that you would have done in a similar setting, or talk about common interests, and ask that person. You may be dealing with this right now. You have a lot of attrition right now. They'll say, yeah, we have a lot of attrition. We live, a lot of our senior people are leaving. Then you'll say, oh, we have a team. We have, we do work around this. Do you think I can get half an hour of your time next week? Something like that. And again, be generally interested in solving problems for the person. The sales will automatically happen. That's my experience. Add value to customers. So if the customer is, if the client feels that you're always there to sell them something, then they will not want to engage too much, right? But and this is what I used to tell my
pest control.
Yeah. So if you're always there to sell something, then clients will stop entertaining us. If you're there, say, okay, this new report has come down, or if one thing I do is whenever I go to a city, so if I'm in Delhi or if I'm in Bangalore, I generally, meet up. I set up dinners. 5-10 people turn up, So it becomes an interesting way for them to connect. I remember when I was in Bangalore, we used to have a quarterly meet of startup founders in South Bangalore, and we would meet up for lunch, drink beer, chat up for a couple of hours, and then I think a couple of years later, I met one of my friends, and he was working with another friend, and I asked, "How do you know that person?" He said, "I met in those lunches." So if you enable platforms for people to connect with each other, if you're somebody who organizes activities, events, that's definitely adding value to people around us, right? So I organize a lot of webinars and conferences. So when I left my corporate job in 2011, and I joined TIE, uh, one of the people working there told me that the best way to get value from this is be part of organizing an event here. Right, and it was true. I volunteered to organize one of the events, and I got to meet so many people that one of them actually, one of the senior people there actually started a company with me later on. Right, so always volunteer to add value to people. Always volunteer to say organize events, take initiative, get people together. And that's one way of people to notice you. That's one way of people to see that, okay, this guy is not just in it for himself or herself, this person, but generally out there to build the community, keep them together, right? And then be reliable. So if somebody says, I need to talk to you about this, make sure you make a note and you follow up with that person. Or if you tell somebody, I want to meet you for so and so, just make sure that you do a follow up there again, right? Otherwise, they'll just think that, oh, this person just keeps asking for appointment but never follows up. So the event or the activity, it gives a platform to be known, be noticed by people, and then following up, being reliable. Again, if a lot of times we get no, right? So we go with the solution. The client says, "Oh, not right now," or "No, this doesn't work for me." So that doesn't mean we can completely shun the client, right? So be constantly in touch. Uh, on LinkedIn, you get birthday notifications, or you have all the all the festivals. I know sometimes it might be too intrusive or too annoying, but yeah, see if you can use some of those events, to kind of reconnect with people that you're not in touch with. One thing I've been doing in the last few years, or during the lockdown, is on weekends, every weekend, call up somebody that you knew, from your college or school or from your previous company, and just chat without any agenda, right? It may not turn into business, but just that whole process of meeting, of connecting, might throw up some opportunities, right? So one of my classmates from Hyderabad was in Bombay recently, and we met up for lunch. I think we met up for breakfast, and then something came up, and he said, I need help in this," and I said, "Okay, my firm does that work." So a completely zero agenda activity, ended up uh, giving me a little bit of business. And we need to have a lot of patience. So in the first startup that I did after L&T in 2011, we did a gaming company. We were making simulation games for MBA colleges, and there were and again. So now coming to Lakshit's point, how do you sell your first to your first customer, right? So we were alumni from IIM Kozhikode, and so we said, okay, let's give it to our college free of cost, right? So we approached some professors. Some of them said, okay, these look good, let me try them out. So we had one logo, although it was free of cost. Then we looked at professors who had moved from Kozhikode to other colleges. So we had a professor who moved to XLRI, and so we reached out to him, and then he said, okay, we told him that IMK is using it. So he said, okay, let me also have a look at it. And then he bought. So we had a first paid customer. So now we had one, top private colleges, one private college, one government college. And then we just, made proper collateral and went out to the market. Right. So from the first couple of customers, we understand what are their pain points, why do they buy the product, right? So we may, so market research is very important. And in the first 2-3 customers, if you don't make too much money, as long as costs are covered, or even if you make a slight loss, if you are funded, that's okay, because it's a cost of doing market research. So you observe how are they engaging with the product. So we had thought the products will be used as case studies instead of case studies in colleges. One of the colleges, they use them as final exams. So it was a 20-mark exam, and the prof said, I'm saving 25% of my time because I just give the game and the results come out, and I just look at it and give marks according to that. Otherwise, I had to sit and correct 300 exam papers, right? So from the initial customers, you learn quite a lot, and that will help you in kind of fine tuning your pitch to the market. And then again, when you're talking to your clients, you will know, okay, which are the pain points and which feature do you play on, right? So you may have like 10 features for your product, but if you're listening to your client, if you're understanding what their pain point is, if you're being consultative, if you're being like a true consultant to your client, and a true partner and a friend, then you will be able to listen and understand what is their top pain point and which is a feature that you can plug in, so that they say, okay, let me try this product out. Yeah. And this is, I just made this up, but I mean the name, but this is a framework that was taught to us when I was doing my insurance training. So if you look at the time that we invest into a sale, right, it's an inverted pyramid, right? So we need to invest in a relationship. We need to listen actively, understand the pain points, and then we kind of come out with a solution, propose a solution, and then we close. And if you look at the time that we invest, so almost 30-40% should be invested in, in building the relationship with the person, creating that background relatedness. For my simulations company, it was, I think we started seeing good money in our third year, right? Third or fourth year, because that is when the brand had, gotten some recognition. We had gotten some good clients, some good referrals. People are talking about it, all of that, right? So we need to invest in those relationships. We need to listen actually, what are their challenges. So 40-30 is the understanding the client, what they require. 20 would be proposing the solutions. The typo there, it's not provide solution, propose solution. And just once all that is done, then it's closing is just like 10% of the work, right? So closing is like giving a proposal, agreeing on the financials, the paperwork, and starting the engagement, right? And if I kind of extend this, right, so we build the trust, we learn about the client, we provide a solution, or we propose a solution, we deliver that solution, and then the client becomes a referral for us, right? So now couple more learnings that I have around building relationships and around sales. So I don't know how many of you know Freshworks. Girish was a friend of mine who I met in that 2011 event, and we became friends. And he keeps telling that when they hire salespeople, they hire storytellers, right? So they don't just do mass emailing. The salesperson will actually go to the LinkedIn profile, will actually Google or search about the potential client, and they will when they write the email, they will say, "I read this article about that you had written, and resonate with that," or they will look at something which will connect to that client. It's not just saying that we do all of this, and so I usually get a lot of these marketers on LinkedIn who connect, and then they send one long 5-page email or a message or whatever, right? So what he says is, when they hire, so the salespeople actually do a bit of so they'll take like 10-15 minutes, understand the client, send out the email, and they have a much higher click email open and conversion rate because of that. Okay. So the next time that you connect with somebody on LinkedIn, always send a context message. So there is an option to send a personalized message, right? So along with the connection request, always send a personalized message that I am so and so, I'm working so and so. I follow you on LinkedIn. Yeah, Akshata, can you go on mute? Yeah. So always do that. So the chances of the person accepting the request are higher. So today I have almost, I'm close to my 30,000 limit on LinkedIn. So I'm fairly selective. So if anyone reaches out to me, and they just send a blank connection request, I mostly ignore them. But if yeah. But if somebody sends a message, a customized message on why they want to connect, or some background on that, I always accept that request, right? Because they've taken an effort to kind of know me, or tell me how it's relevant and all of that. So those are some tips, some tricks. So now I'm open to questions. We have like 10 minutes, I think, left for the session. So I'm open to questions, and you can just raise your hand and unmute and ask questions.
Rohit, Karthikeyan this side.
Yeah, hi Karthik.
Yeah, so my query is, so when it comes to relationship selling, okay, many times it happens that, the customer or the contact at some point in time starts to take you for granted. And, maybe sometimes, the expectation setting by them goes to that level where you as a salesperson is not able to, fill in the gap. So
Sure.
what is your recommendation for that? Like, where do we maintain that balance?
Yeah. So sometimes it's also okay to walk away, right? So in my opinion, the relationship is more important than giving them a service which is not up to their expectation, right? So if we're not able to fulfill, so one is we need to listen very actively, understand what their expectation is, and then if you're able to fulfill it, and the price works for us, then obviously go for it. But if it doesn't, then either educate them that it cannot be done for this price at the quality you're expecting. But if they're not willing, then sometimes it makes sense to just walk away also, and say that there'll be other vendors, and maybe if you have somebody in your back pocket, you can suggest that if it's not a peer. But so for example, if the client is looking at fundraising, right, in my example, for example, in my business, so unless they're doing like a 10 million raise, it won't be of interest to my firm. But then there'll be a lot of CAs who do that, so you can suggest that that for the amount you're the kind of work you're doing, our firm would not be interested, but there are vendors who will work at that price point and give you the required service. So I think, Karthik, we should know when to walk away. And then at times it also happens that the client comes back to us saying, okay, we're willing to pay a higher price, but we want to work with you.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah. Again, I go back to an example. Like we had gone to a restaurant, and we ordered like 4-5 items. And the person who was taking the order said, "Sir, zyada ho jayega." So we appreciated that, because he would have made his commission, and he would have made his, whatever, um, higher revenue and tips and all of that by if he had ordered more. But then he was also conscious that we won't be able to eat so much, and we also appreciated that fact. So sometimes, it's okay to lose a bit of business here and there, but losing the client is worse. Yep. Anybody else? Yes, Mudit.
Hi, Rohit. One thing that I usually fail to do is there are two things. First of all, I often fail to be in touch with people who are new in my network because I fail on finding agendas to talk to them.
Sure.
And that has happened with you also. I mean, we got in touch once, and then I didn't write to you after that.
Right.
That is one thing that I have no clue about. How do I go about it? Second thing is, often I'm skeptical about this, that when a lot of people in my network are, I mean, they themselves are founders, they are building great businesses out there. How do I text them without a proper business agenda? Is that something which is will they appreciate it? I mean, because I'm just texting out of blue for no professional reason as such.
Right. So what works for me is usually, I write that context, right? Ki, I work in this space and wanted to connect with you right now for no agenda. Usually, I reach out to people from my college and say, we're having an event. Would you like to be a speaker? So that's usually a very good way to get people to connect with you.
Hmm.
Although later on it could be a double-edged sword, because if you go to them and they'll say, who are you, then that's so. But once they connect, at least so LinkedIn throws up birthdays. So when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is check LinkedIn and check whose birthdays are there, and either I send them a WhatsApp message, or I send them a message and check, how are you doing. Maybe I spend some time, see if they've written anything recently on LinkedIn. Another way is you connect to a person, so whatever that person posts is visible on your timeline, right? So always engage with their posts, especially if they are talking about something related to the industry, with your own point of view, right? So if I see the same, the same person posting comments 4 or 5 times on my posts, that there's a name recall, right? So tomorrow when you reach out to me, I know, okay, this person has engaged with me on my comments on my posts. So okay, no, it's basic courtesy, right? That I talk to you and help you if you can, if I can, right? So I think that is the other way to kind of generally keep engaged with people on LinkedIn. Does it answer your question, Mudit?
Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you.
Satish, you have a question?
Yeah, hi. I also have a lot of networks, and I have got referrals from my networks, and there are quite inful thoughts that what you said was more interesting, which I would like to follow on this.
Yeah.
But I want to know, is there any way that how can we get connected to a high ticket sale clients, or how do convert high ticket clients from 0 to 1?
Right.
And
It takes
also
time.
add including for the international clients, that will be great.
Right. So it takes time. It takes high ticket. Like how high is the ticket, Satish? What value of sale are you talking about?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it is 3 to 4 crores sale is what I'm talking
Right.
about.
Yeah. No, I think anything above like 10, 20 lakhs also. So international works differently. But in India, a lot of these clients want to want to meet you, right? So even if they're buying like a 5 lakh worth of items, they'll want to meet you a few times before they actually think of buying. Which is where again, your if you have name recall and if they know you, and it's a slow process, Satish. So 0 to 1 will take at least 6 months to a year.
Understood. Okay.
Right. You need to keep engaging with them before they see. They need to trust you. End of the day.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So whatever time it takes for them to build that trust with you, that's what you need to look at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes the trust happens, there's a tacit trust because you're from a similar background, right? So same college, same company. So there is a basic level of trust, right? So you can always leverage that. But otherwise, yes, you will need to kind of meet them informally, bump into them at events, engage with them on LinkedIn, all of that.
Understood. That's true.
Yeah.
But coming to startups, most of the startups find it difficult to engage salespeople, or
Yeah.
if there are events in the international events, they find it very difficult to just go and attend the event. They try because there'll be more localized people.
Yeah.
I think COVID has given opportunity to talk to pan India people or international because of this digitalization.
Right.
this has given a lot of scope for every sales guy, is what I believe.
Right.
In number of people, out of their limits.
Yes. Yes. I think the last 2 years it has been easier to connect with people outside India, but yeah. Otherwise, but if you're yeah, but I think now people are again coming back to work, right? So for larger ticket size, they will still want to have somebody there. Sadly, if you're selling enterprise software in the US, you will need to hire a salesperson there. I think it will be very tough just to sell it from India. If you look at a lot of the SaaS companies, most of them are shifting their headquarters there, right? Once they reach a certain level. So the founder usually shifts to the US, or they have a dedicated sales team there, because that's how you sell enterprise software. SaaS can still work. You do a lead gen, you do an inside sales, but there the ticket size will be small. The smaller ticket. But otherwise, I think yeah. Another option could be 3-4 companies pulling in and hiring a salesperson who kind of represents all of you. So those models are evolving. I don't know too many companies, but I know somebody who's trying to build that kind of a network. But yes, if the ticket size goes up, then you will need a physical presence closer to that geography.
I think this is also other way of looking around for selling, international. Thanks for this vision.
Sure. Any other question? I think we can take one more question and then we can wind up the session.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, Alex.
Yeah. So Alex is, my name is Harmeet Singh. So the question is about the industrial B2B sales, wherein we get the prescription done from the consultants and the end users, but the actual sale happens through the contractors and the panel builders.
Right.
So, and again, the distributors are also there, which could be feeding to the contractors and the panel builders. Right. So what happens in this case is, though the end user wants the best of the products, which would be slightly costly, but when it goes on to the feeders, who are panel builders and contractors, they would like to go in for the L1 thing.
Sure.
Right. So how to deal with that? That is one. Since this chain is complex, so if one of them your relationship goes bad, not because of you, because of one of your colleague, because it's a matrix organization, and say he blacklists the whole of the company. So how to handle that? So these are two questions. If you can throw a bit light on this, sir.
Yeah. So for L1, there's no solution, but if you look at even government tendering, I think they have a mandate that 15% of procurement has to be from startups. So where the L1 is not applicable, or government tendering now does QCBS, which is quality and cost-based sourcing. So a lot of places L1 is coming down because people realize that in L1 you don't get the best quality, or you may not get the best solution with an L1. So people are moving towards a QCBS kind of procurement. The second thing is if your price. So for example, I work in an industry where there are 3 peers, and there are like 3 other companies, 3 or 4 other companies which are like providing similar services to some of what our services. So obviously, without peers, there is not too much of a pricing difference, but that is where the relationship also comes into play, right? So if it's with a private sector client, and the price is almost similar, a few lakhs here and there, then they will again look at which salesperson or which team are they most comfortable with, or which of the firms is able to provide a team that is more aligned to the work that we need executed. So, so that's your L1 question. The second question was around blacklisting. Yeah. So again, it's on a case-to-case basis. You need to go meet the procurement person, show that you've taken some remedy. So usually they have a cure period. but then if somebody down the line, then they may not inform you that there is something wrong. So maybe one could be better control systems within your organization, so that you're monitoring everything that's happening. Something around contract management, so you know that what is to be delivered by when, and then you have somebody who's monitoring that. And then if they actually blacklist you, then we'll have to go and meet them and figure out what it will take for them to remove you from the blacklist, right? So a lot of times, it would be that you've cheesed someone off, or someone's ego has been hurt, and then such people might leave also at times. So but blacklisting is like, again, a very a boundary condition. It doesn't happen every day. So whenever that happens, you need to see what is the cause and see what remedy you can take, and then demonstrate to the client that we have taken a remedy and this won't happen again.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, what happens here is that normally I would say that the client has blacklisted you.
Yeah.
You also start blacklisting him, that okay, I also won't go there.
Yeah.
So you're right that persuasion is a must thing.
Yeah. And there are many times we kind of fire clients also, right? It's not just one way. It's a two-way street. If there's a client who continuously gives us low quality work and doesn't pay us on time, and doesn't give us enough margins. So a lot of the turnaround stories that happen, right, that we read in the newspapers, that this company turned around. How do they turn it around? They will look at all their clients. They will look at the contribution margin from each client. They look at the volume of business from each client, and they'll see these are clients we don't want to work with, right? Because they're not profitable for us. And then they actually start disengaging with that client, or they kind of end those, complete those engagements, but don't try to get further engagements and all of that. So that's one way that turnaround stories happen, right? You look at the high contribution margin products and services clients and kind of move out of the rest of it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Himadri, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rohit. I think, it was a really insightful session, and thanks for sharing your experiences. And I'm sure we all did benefit of the experience that you've shared with us. And from here on, we'll kind of make it every day a better day in terms of selling, meeting new people, building that relationship. And as you spoke, what is more important is sustain that relationship and keep adding value.
Yeah.
So the moment you add value, I think that was my personal takeaway. The moment you add value, that's when people, get connected in the real sense. So
Right.
Thank you, Rohit, for taking out time, and thank you everyone for joining on this Saturday afternoon, considering Saturday is a weekend for most of us. But before you sign off, you can always connect with us at hello@junoschool.org for any information that you need or any assistance that we can offer. We'll be more than happy. The next session that we have on Saturday, which is about busting sales myths. So, sales has also evolved from the time it started, and now what are the tools and techniques? So there are a lot of myths that we all have as salespeople, right? And the customers have evolved. So we need to be in sync with what the customers feel rather than just following the primitive way of selling. So the next session is all about the myths that we have in the mind and how do we break and look at the reality or look at the real picture of the modern day selling. Thank you so much for joining in, everybody, and hope to see you next Saturday at 12 o'clock sharp. Thank you.